Today, we're diving into a really powerful, you might even say radical, model of leadership that's drawn from biblical texts. It's a model that looks completely different from a lot of our modern ideas about power and influence, and honestly, it offers a pretty different path forward. So let's get into it. It's the big question, isn't it? One that's been asked for centuries. Is it about having this commanding authority, or being a strategic genius, or is it something much deeper, something that's actually rooted in character? That right there is the central question we're going to explore together. To help answer that question, the book of Revelation gives us this incredibly stark contrast. On one side, you've got the beast, which is really a symbol for corrupt imperial power that just dominates and deceives. But then on the other side, you have the lamb, representing this completely different sacrificial kind of leadership that serves. These two archetypes are going to frame our entire conversation. So, how do we actually lead like the lamb? Well, this model argues it's not about some checklist of skills you go out and get. It's about a foundation of internal character that you have to cultivate. It really does all start from within. And the core of that character is built on three foundational pillars. We're going to look at humility, which totally redefines what strength looks like, then integrity, which is the absolute bedrock of trust, and finally, prayerfulness, which is really all about a deep dependence on God for wisdom and guidance. Now, the definition of humility in this model is just so countercultural. It's not just about being modest, it's an active choice. I mean, in a world that pretty much runs on self-promotion and chasing recognition, this is about choosing service over status, even when it means being completely overlooked. And this passage from Philippians, wow, it just illustrates how profound that humility can be. It points to the ultimate example of a leader emptying themselves out, a complete willingness to sacrifice absolutely everything for a purpose that's way bigger than themselves. Okay, next up is integrity. And the key word here is consistency. This isn't about trying to be perfect. It's about whether your daily actions actually line up with the values you say you have. That alignment, that is the bedrock of trust and credibility. Without it, leadership just crumbles. And finally, we get this powerful, reflective question about dependence. Sustainable leadership means we have to look beyond our own strength for guidance. This question really makes you pause and think, when the pressure is really on, where do you turn first? To your own abilities or to a higher source of wisdom? So, we've talked about the internal foundation. Now let's see how all of that actually translates into the real world. This is where character becomes action. This leadership style really comes to life through four key actions. We'll see how serving others becomes the number one priority, how compassion is what fuels connection, why courage is absolutely non-negotiable, and how forgiveness creates the space for people to grow. This idea is such a game changer. We're so often taught to think of leaders as being at the top of a pyramid, right? But this model just flips that whole thing upside down. It argues that the main role, the very starting point of real leadership, is to serve the needs of your team and your community. And there is no more vivid picture of this than the story of Jesus washing his disciples' feet. I mean, he was their teacher, their Lord, and yet he took on the role of the lowest servant. That single act really captures the entire philosophy of servant leadership. Now, don't get me wrong, this kind of leadership is anything but weak. It is incredibly courageous. But courage here isn't about not feeling fear. It's about having the conviction to act on your principles, to challenge injustice when you see it, and to speak the truth, even when it might come at a huge personal cost. And here's another one of those direct challenges. This question forces us to get really honest and confront the areas where our own fear might be holding us back from leading with real integrity and courage. It's definitely a moment for some honest self-reflection. All right, we've seen the internal character and the external actions. So now we turn to the ultimate purpose, the why behind it all. What is the lasting impact this kind of leadership has on other people? You see, the goal here isn't just to manage people, but to actually build up a community. And that happens by casting a compelling vision, by truly empowering others to lead themselves, by showing relentless patience, and by demonstrating what the text calls sacrificial love. I absolutely love this point because it speaks so directly to where we are today. Great leadership isn't about gathering a bunch of followers who just depend on you. It's about multiplying your impact by empowering other leaders, equipping them to carry the mission forward on their own. And this idea of empowerment is rooted right here in the Great Commission.
The mission was never to hoard authority, but to train other people up and then release them to continue the work. It's a leadership model built entirely on multiplication, not just addition.
And here's the real rubber meets the road question. It's a direct challenge to think about our legacy. Are we building something that can't survive without us? Or are we actively pouring into others, preparing them to lead long after we're gone? This is really the ultimate test of empowerment. We have covered a ton of ground, from our internal character all the way to our ultimate purpose. So let's bring it all back home to a simple, personal challenge for you. Look, seeing all these characteristics at once can feel a little overwhelming, but real transformation never happens by trying to master everything overnight. It begins with just one single step. So that's the final challenge. Humility, courage, forgiveness, empowerment. Just look at the list. Which one of these principles will you intentionally try to practice this week? Because those small, intentional steps, they can create ripples of transformation that are far greater than we can ever imagine.